honestly, The Sims 4 is sort of lacking in the car department. They never added cars to the base game, and I feel like it's probably one of the most requested updates, I guess maybe alongside a baby update. It is kind of weird that the life simulation game doesn't have cars in it, but to be honest, at this point, I doubt we'll ever get them added, and I also don't think that I care that much. Like, gameplay-wise, it's just been so long, I'm not even sure cars would fit in anymore. They just didn't build the worlds to fit them. The only reason that I kind of want cars is for build mode. I really want to have like actual functional garage doors. I want to have cars that I can stick in the driveway. I'm getting sick of using fake debug cars and like trying to make fake garage doors using wallpapers and windows. But today we are going to do just that because I literally built an entire house inspired by me wanting to put a fake garage on this lot. There's this 30 by 30 lot in Newcrest that has two sides on the street, and I really wanted to make a house that had a front door on one side and a garage on the other. This sort of layout is really common for corner lots in real life, and I just think it's so pretty, so I really wanted to try and recreate it. Obviously, the problem being that we don't actually have garages or cars. So there was a lot of pretending going on in this build. Also a lot of debug just in general. I used a lot of debug cars, obviously, but a lot of like debug walls and stuff to really decorate. This house was built using only the base game, so I was trying to get creative with cheats. I will admit that it is a blue Suburban. It is. I can't escape this curse. I only know how to build one thing, and it's this. But it's not just any blue Suburban. It's a blue Suburban with a fake garage. So that's gotta count for something, right? So as the house is coming together, you'll see that it's a pretty decent size. It's got 3 bedrooms upstairs. It's got a nice big open living space, but it also has that garage area. And the fun part about that is that it's kind of a multi-purpose room in the game. We don't need it to actually store a car in. We've got a driveway for that, and also the car's not real. So I can use that garage space to put like gym equipment, an easel. We've got like a woodworking table. You could even put like that giant microscope thing in there. There's just so many weird items in The Sims 4 that kind of don't really fit into your regular house, so it's nice to have a like multi-purpose room just to act as like a dumping ground for all of those big giant weird things that we have. Like, what if you were trying to use a cupcake machine in this house? Where are you supposed to put it? It doesn't fit anywhere. You need like an entire bedroom just for the cupcake machine. Well, fake garage, problem solved. There's something about these giant Sims items that literally fit nowhere that's maybe a little bit charming. Like, it kind of takes me back to 2014 and like, oh, how silly is this? But also, the fact that I can't bake cupcakes on a regular oven, I mean, come on. Why? Why? At this point, it's been 8 years. Please. I will say that I actually really struggled with the floor plan on this house. I don't know what it was, but it's kind of a weird shape, and it's also not that big, and so I really wanted it to have 3 bedrooms, but they just didn't fit in that well. The rooms were kind of oddly shaped. It didn't really work the way that I wanted it to, so it took me a while to figure out the best way to do it. But my main goal with this house was to have it be super functional and like super playable for everybody who wanted to use it in their games. So I wanted to have as many bedrooms as possible. I wanted to have like extra space for gameplay items. I wanted it to be kind of affordable. I wanted it to be base game only. I mean, I kind of had a long list of things that I wanted to include. In the end, I think it worked out pretty well. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs and also an office space downstairs. So that could probably be an extra bedroom if you needed it to be. Maybe grandma could live down there or something. I don't know. But there's plenty of space in this house. I did really struggle with the downstairs floor plan though, because the downstairs was kind of just one big open room. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, open floor plans are always pretty fun, but it's nice to have an open floor plan that's actually like dividable, like can actually be used for separate spaces. It just didn't seem like there was enough space in there for me to have like a full kitchen and living space and dining space. It was a little bit too small and also just kind of one big square, so it was tough to split up. I also very foolishly did not leave like any empty walls for a living room. I think that was the main issue, was that I sort of had the walls divided up, so I had like a kitchen in one corner and then, oh, there's no more corners left, so where's the TV gonna go? So it took me a lot of trial and error. I was just putting rugs down and like moving them and trying to see like, does this fit here? It ends up working out in the end, but it took me a while to get there. Eventually, I just gave up trying and started digging through debug to try and find some more decorative stuff. And that's when I found this super cool debug wall. So if you're not familiar, when I say debug, I'm talking about a cheat that you can put in. You actually need 2 cheats to access this stuff. It's bb.show hidden objects and then bb.show live edit objects. Write that down or also maybe just Google it. when you need it. It's just called debug. Google the debug cheats. They'll come up. It'll be easier that way. They're super long and hard to remember. But with those cheats, you can access all kinds of build stuff that's like locked in the regular game. So for example, the first debug cheat, that show hidden objects one, that opens up like all of the collectibles. So for example, you know how your sim can dig into frogs and like collect little stones and gems and stuff? You can't access those things in build mode, but you can access them in the debug menu. They basically like separated it behind a filter because otherwise there would be so much stuff in the build catalog, it'd be ridiculous. I think there's like 30 different frogs and they're all different objects, not like one object with swatches. So it's kind of a nightmare to scroll through. And then that second debug cheat, that show live edit objects cheat, that one opens up all of the world objects. So if you'll see kind of around this lot, there's a lot of landscaping they use, like big rocks and like different plants that we don't actually have access to. That's all hidden behind that live edit objects cheat. Now these objects are kind of weird because they're not actually objects. They weren't made with the intention of us being able to use them, and we weren't even able to until like right after Strangerville came out. That's when the cheat got added to the game. And so these items, it's a lot of landscape and there's a lot of really random things that don't really function. It's also a super long menu to dig through. Like most of it is just nonsense that you don't need. But there are a few hidden gems in there. Like I used some bushes from debug. We used those walls from debug. And so I ended up using those walls to like sort of expand along the house and also kind of like extend out the driveway and make it a little bit more decorative. I thought it looked really cool because a lot of houses like this in real life kind of have like a little stone facade on them. And so I was kind of trying to mimic that with that debug wall. I really love how it looks on the right side of the house by the driveway. I think it turned out super cute over there. Now this debug stuff is like totally safe to use. It won't like break your game or anything. I know it sounds kind of scary, but it's not a big deal. The only thing about it is that because these debug objects aren't actually objects and they weren't designed to be used like objects, sometimes they have super high poly counts. And also sometimes they're not like an object, like your sims will walk through them sometimes. You don't really have an issue with that. Like I don't usually encounter that problem because for example, like over here, my sims don't usually stand in that corner where those darker green bushes are. They just won't route that way, so it's not really an issue. And if anything, it's just gonna be like a visual glitch. But sometimes those debug items have a couple little weird things about them because they're, you know, debug items. Just a quick little plug, I did actually build this house live on my Twitch channel. I usually do with my speed builds like this. I mean, I do kind of a combination of like live builds on YouTube and also these speed builds that are a bit longer where I just speed up the footage and then play it back and do a voiceover. But I did build this live on Twitch, so if you want to come by my streams, I am live literally every day. Even tonight, I'm gonna be live building on my Twitch channel, like right after I post this video, so I'll link my channel down below. But it's kind of fun because on Twitch, we can actually like interact more. We can like respond to comments real time. You can give me feedback. You can say it's ugly. I mean, you probably shouldn't because that would hurt my feelings, but I suppose you could. Okay, speaking of ugly, the back of this house is a little bit ugly. Like just a little bit. I almost did it on purpose. This is the thing. With this house, I was really going for realism. Like I wasn't really trying to make it look like a little perfect pristine Sims build. It does from the front for sure. But I also wanted it to be kind of realistic. That's why I was going for the garage and stuff because obviously that's useless in the game. And in real life, look, we don't build the backs or the sides of houses to be pretty. I mean, sometimes they are, but most of the time, the back and side of houses is very ugly. The house that I live in now, the one that I literally just bought, the back, flat. This is just the way that it is, at least around here where I'm from. And it makes sense, right? Like even with window placement, usually in real life, you'd worry more about how windows look from the inside than the outside. Because like, who cares what it looks like on the side of the house, on the exterior, right? Because you care about where the window is in your kitchen more. So I definitely did that with this house. I was more preoccupied by the interior and how that looked than the exterior. It's weird because in The Sims, I feel like I tend to prioritize the exterior a lot more. Like I'll oftentimes place windows on the outside and then like design the inside based on the window placement. But I guess that's because in The Sims, we tend to look at the house from like an aerial view where we see the whole thing a lot more often than you would in real life. So it matters to us more. There's a couple other weird things about the interior of this house. Like a lot of people in my Twitch chat were kind of confused as to why I ended up putting 2 sliding glass doors in the back. I know it maybe looks a little bit silly in game and it's also not like super practical in game, which was kind of defeating the whole purpose of what I wanted the house to be practical. But But also, I just think the sliding glass doors we have in the base game are too small. We have a few really big, wide sliding glass doors from packs, like Eco Lifestyle has some, Island Living has some, but the base game sliding glass doors are teeny tiny like that. And so I just sort of wanted like a wider door. I felt like in real life that window would probably be really big. They'd probably like fill in that whole patio space. And so I kind of tried to do that too. The other weird thing is that there's like a step down from the front door. And that's because I put the front porch on a platform. I didn't want to use a foundation for the house or like mess with terrain tools or anything. And I really wanted the driveway to be flat with the house, obviously, because that was like the whole point of the build. But I also wanted the porch to be like a tiny bit raised because I thought it looked kind of weird how it was just like flat on the ground. And so I wanted to use a platform there, but then like the front door was floating. So I put a little tiny step by the front door. And I don't think it's that weird. I think that kind of thing might happen in real life. I also like how it kind of adds a little bit more of an interest to that little corner because the front door is just really in the corner of the house. And so it makes it look like more of a proper entryway. Although it is a major tripping hazard. Like if I lived in that house, I would probably trip on that on a daily basis. I literally fell down my own stairs going downstairs to get my water this morning. Oh, it's a real problem. My new house has wood floors. I always wear socks. It's a little bit slippy. I need to be safe. I need to hold on to handrails. And I do, but I still sometimes fall. I'm very clumsy. It's actually dangerous. I'm joking about it, but like I could sincerely hurt myself at some point. So I need to be careful. I need to go down the stairs slowly. I need to take my time, watch my steps. This Sims house is not for me. Let's just make that clear. Anyway, so at this point, we're sort of finishing up some furnishing and I really was loving how it was looking, but I was also kind of running low on money. I was sort of trying to keep this house like a reasonable price and reasonable budget. And then when I decorated the garage, I put so much expensive stuff. You won't believe this, but those canvases that I put behind the little easel, there's a couple super cute artsy things in this game. There's the canvases, there's like a little canvas rack. There's a lot of cute stuff for the painting career, but the canvases themselves are 3,000 simoleons. It's just like a little pile of canvases. There's 3 swatches, 1 plain one, and 2 that have paintings on them. 3,000 simoleons. I think that might cost like the same amount as everything else in the garage combined. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's expensive. It is an expensive pile of canvases. I also put a treadmill and some weights in there, and there's just like a big random crate pile. Basically, I figured if I was actually using packs, I'd probably end up putting like maybe the decor box from Seasons in there, or like the flower arranging table, just all those random little things that you kind of need a space for. I'd put them in that room. And then upstairs, we've got kind of a weird shaped hallway. It kind of looks like a P. And then off that, there's 3 bedrooms. I've got one like parents' room and then a couple kids' rooms. I tried to make these like sort of generic, not in a bad way, but just in like a maybe you could download this and then have your Sims fit in pretty easily kind of way. I'm actually curious your thoughts on this because back in the day before I like was good at building, before I really ever built things in The Sims, like Sims 3 and early Sims 4 days, I used to download more houses off the gallery. I really never do that now because I like to build them myself. But back in the day when I would get things off the gallery, I would usually just refurnish them, sometimes the whole thing, or at the very least the bedrooms. Like I didn't usually keep the bedrooms that came with the house because I wanted them to fit my Sims better. Do you do that? If you're not like a fan of building, do you usually tend to replace the bedrooms yourself, or do you just really hate building and not even bother? Because I'm always curious to hear people's thoughts. I used to think that I wasn't good at building, but I still like to furnish stuff. I just wasn't really very good at like building exteriors. And then once I started doing it more and practicing more, I feel like I'm decent at it these days. I feel like I'm okay at it now. But I always liked to decorate rooms. That was always a thing that I enjoyed. It was just more of like roofing and the outside stuff that I kind of struggled with. Speaking of, we are pretty much done with the entire outside of this house. We have a couple bedrooms left to do, and then I'm gonna add a few more things to the backyard. My priority with this was to like furnish the whole interior, make it work, and then see, okay, should I add a little bit extra money for the backyard? Because I was really trying to stick to like a 60,000 simoleon budget, and so I wanted the interior to be furnished first. That was the more important thing for me, and then I thought I could come back to the outside and figure that out afterward. I'd rather have like toys in the kids' room than a patio table, right? But at this point, I was certainly getting a little bit nervous. I was like, I only have like 3,000 simoleons left, and I've got 2 bedrooms left to furnish and a whole backyard. So I did end up cheating for a little bit more money. Obviously, I didn't have like a hard, strict budget. I just kind of set it for myself because I wanted the house to be more playable for all of you. But who are we kidding? The bar was too high. With this house, I had so many things that I wanted it to include. It wasn't gonna be a cheap one. Let's be real. You can't have it all, Kayla. You can't have literally everything in this house. I do have one small small announcement as this video is sort of finishing up. I'm going to be at TwitchCon this weekend. I realize a lot of you probably aren't going to TwitchCon, but if you watch my streams, if maybe you watch other people's streams and you're gonna be there at TwitchCon, so will I. It's my first convention in a long time, obviously, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm excited about it. I've also got a meet and greet and a panel at TwitchCon. I'll link my TwitchCon schedule down below, but my meet and greet is on Friday at noon, and my panel is on Saturday at 3. I know this does not matter to like pretty much all of you, but on the off chance you're gonna be there, I wanted to remind you, I am kind of nervous. I feel really out of practice, but it'll be fun. I'm excited to see people and stuff, so I'm looking forward to it. And oh my god, I'm gonna cut my hair. So I was supposed to get an actual haircut before TwitchCon. That was my plan. I was gonna go get like a real haircut. And then a hurricane came, so I canceled my appointment because there was a hurricane hitting Florida the same day as my appointment. And now I'm not getting my haircut before TwitchCon, and I'm gonna cut it myself again. So if my hair looks ugly from the back, you aren't allowed to laugh at me. My hair does look bad from the back. You just can't see it because I only film from this angle. So I'm a bit nervous about that too, about being seen in person. But anyway, the build is over now, so I want to pop into the game and show you like an actual tour of the house. So I built this on this Tranquil Crescent 30 by 30 lot in Newcrest. Oh, okay, and it's gone. Let me just replace that quickly. I must have moved the sim out with the furniture earlier when I evicted them. All right, well, this is the finished house. Literally the entire house was based on the fact that I could have this walkway on the front of the lot and then a driveway over here on the side, like lined up with the road. There's a curb here, so it's not quite so driveway-y, but we can just pretend. But I liked the placement of this lot a lot for that reason. I also just really like how it looks from the front on the outside. We have that little driveway right here. We've got like the trash can and a hose and stuff. I put a little garden over here too because there was so much space on the front. And then over here we have a tiny little front porch, and when you walk in, we've got that entryway, like a little entry table. There's a dining space, and then we have this main living area kind of centered and a kitchen in the back corner. We've got the stairs and like a little hallway behind it, and that hallway takes you to a bathroom and also the garage. And the garage I am really happy with. I like how it's kind of got a couple zones. We have like this little painting corner and also this little like gym space over here, and also some storage. I did stick the gym equipment straight in front of the door because it's not a door and you can't open it, so I thought it didn't matter. For the door, I just put columns and like a different kind of siding and then some windows on top to like try and mimic what might look like a garage door, but obviously we don't actually have them. I found that this door from Snowy Escape works really well as a pretend garage door. Obviously this house was base game, so I didn't have Snowy Escape to use for it. It's a medium height door, but it looks really good when it's placed on short wall height like this. Like it's basically the exact same height, so I find it's great to use for it. And then it actually opens, so that's kind of a useful feature. There's also a couple like metal looking garage door type things from City Living and stuff, but I find those to be a bit too small, so I try to avoid using them. I tend to either go for this door or do like the fake wallpaper thing. Anyway, we also have a little office downstairs. It's got a computer and a chess table, all the necessities. And then upstairs, we've got that tiny hallway, a second bathroom, and then 3 bedrooms. We've got kind of like an orange kids room, a green parents room, and a pink kids room. The back doesn't have a ton going on, but it does have a grill and a table and also like a little monkey bar set for the kids. I think my favorite parts of the house are actually these little wall pieces. I really like how this looks. Like I love this wall up against the wall and then like the tiny window above it. I just think that looks really cute. I wish that we had a wallpaper that more closely matched so I could have the chimney be the same, but overall, I'm really happy with the house. I think it turned out pretty nice, and I'm so glad that it's actually like downloadable. Costs like $60,000. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and it's also all base game. So hopefully it'll be easy to download and also be good for your Sims if you need a house like this. On that note though, I'm gonna cut off the video right here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you like Sims builds like this, I literally post Sims videos every day on my YouTube channel, so feel free to subscribe, and I'm gonna see you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye everybody. My new office gets so much sunlight in the mornings, which isn't a bad thing, but I also didn't really think through putting up pink curtains because now the whole room looks pink through the pink curtains in the morning.